The historic harbour city of Bristol has the reputation of being one of the country's leading creative and commercial centres. This thriving city boasts Georgian and Victorian architecture, as well as award-winning contemporary buildings. It's not only a popular leisure destination for world travellers, but home to some internationally successful businesses. One of the many reasons why leading fixed-fee family lawyer Richard Crallan has decided to expand his business here.
Well, I love Bristol. I worked for one of the large local firms of solicitors for a number of years, and it's a very, although it has a rich history, it's a very modern, vibrant, creative place with a very progressive attitude, and I feel that fits in quite well with our own progressive approach to divorce and the services that family law solicitors provide and the way that they charge for those services. So I think we fit in quite well here.
Richard Crallan believes that his approach to fair fees and supportive long-term outcomes for his clients will appeal to the large and ever-increasing population of Bristol.
Well, we first started offering fixed fees in the financial side of a divorce case in January or February 2009. Now, we were the first firm to do it in the country, and other firms now do it as well. But the point is that I strongly believe that it is necessary for solicitors to adapt the way they charge their clients, because quite often clients come to a solicitor without the slightest clue about how much this is all going to cost them, and although solicitors are obliged to give a cost estimate to their client if they're charging by the hour, they'll say, it will cost you between £3,000 and £5,000. Quite often those cost estimates are inaccurate, and there was the legal ombudsman in 2012 drew attention to one particular case where a solicitor doing divorce work had told their client it would cost £5,000 to get divorced, and it cost them £50,000. And the solicitor tried to stand by that bill and wanted to be able to charge the client the full £50,000. The legal ombudsman said, no, that's just not fair. So it's easy. People don't appreciate how much these things can cost. So negotiating outside of the court process is a fixed fee for that. If that doesn't work and the people find that after mediation they still haven't been able to reach an agreement and they really have no choice but to issue court proceedings, then we have a fixed fee which lasts up until the end of the first hearing. And if the case still hasn't managed to be settled, there's another fixed fee that will take you up to a second court hearing called the financial dispute resolution hearing. And the vast majority of people either settle at one of those two hearings. I think it's probably about between 5 and 10% of people who go any further in the litigation process.
Crallan solicitors offer a fair and ethical service to couples who find themselves having to separate, and they can help them through a difficult emotional and financial situation.
Well, a lot of people are on incomes that they can survive when there's only one household to support, but once a separation has occurred, suddenly there's two households and everything doubles, from council tax to electricity and everything else. It becomes difficult in those circumstances to make ends meet. And on top of that, they've also quite often going through the divorce process and having to pay a divorce lawyer to look after their interests. So at the same time that all the bills are doubling overnight, they're also both of them incurring legal fees as well.
Richard has received numerous testimonials from his clients who've praised his supportive and fair way of doing business.
Well, I suppose the reputation that we've built up is for supporting clients through very difficult and challenging circumstances. And perhaps because of that, a greater number of our clients are the wives or girlfriends going through a separation. And we very much see it as our role to support people through not only emotionally challenging times, but also times when they've been asked to make extremely difficult decisions. And a recent case, we had a lady who came to see us, and her husband had talked her into a settlement that he thought was a very good idea. But when we went through it with her in detail, it was pretty apparent that it was an extremely bad idea. She was getting no pension, she was getting no spousal maintenance, only child maintenance, and he was getting half of the capital assets. So he'd sold this to her as being a fantastic deal and not to waste money on lawyers. In fact, it was extremely bad deal, and when we went through it with her and suggested, well, how are you going to cope in retirement without a pension? How are you going to cope without spousal maintenance? Bearing in mind that this lady didn't have a great deal of earning potential, and the husband was going to be continuing to earn a huge amount of money. So she'd sort of, in a way, I suppose, been bullied into this settlement. People are making long-term decisions at a time which is emotionally very traumatic and very difficult, and probably not best able really to think in the long term and think of what the consequences are going to be for them. And really settling at any cost is not appropriate. You need to be, from a lawyer's perspective, making sure that your client is getting a settlement that will stand them in good stead, not just for the short-term future, but for the long-term future as well.